Um, Last week we went through Matthew 1, verses 1 through 17, which is the genealogy of Jesus, right? And we look at genealogies and we think, what are these? Who are these people? What am I doing? But as we discussed, Matthew through a genealogy is basically recapitulating the history of Israel and then seeding Jesus accordingly in that history. Right? And so it starts with Abraham, right, as like the origins of Israel, and then this high point of King David where we're finally united, and then this downgrade into exile, and then back up to a high point with Jesus the Christ. Today we're going to be in Matthew verses 1:18 through 25. And we actually get into the birth narrative at that point. So before I get in there, let me explain what you're looking at here. So this top line here is, that's Hebrew, this is Greek, and then I think you all know what this is, hopefully. So this top line here, Hebrew reads right to left, FYI. So this is a compound word. You've got im. These two letters here is im, and then nu. So this is with. This nu is us, and then this is el. It's just a generic term for God. So you've got with, us, God. Okay, this right here is Greek. This Greek is left to right. So you've got Emmanuel, and then of course English, Emmanuel, God with us. So you don't have to write those down or try and copy those by any means. I'm just trying to, if you learn nothing else this morning, just remember that phrase, God with us. God with us. So you're going to stare at it for the next half hour while I talk. Okay, but remember, God with us. Emmanuel, God with us. Okay. Oh, and so if you ever wonder why sometimes it's spelled with an I or sometimes an E, well, it's an English transliteration of a Greek transliteration of a Hebrew phrase. So if there's an I or an E, you don't have to worry about it. It's all good. Anyways, on to this morning. Matthew 1:18. So 18 through 25 is where we're going to be. I'm going to go through this, and then with each verse, just kind of fill in the details as I can. As we go through this, we're going to hit some history, and then also we get to look at how does the New Testament use the Old Testament, which I think is fascinating. I had a professor who once said, you can't have more fun on earth without sinning than trying to look at how the New Testament uses the Old. I think that's true. I'm guessing you don't, but I'm a nerd. Yeah, so it's fascinating. How does prophecy function in the New Testament? But enough. So 1:18. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. Okay, so Mary is engaged to Joseph. Mary's probably early to mid-teens. Joseph is late teens, maybe early 20s, somewhere in there. But before they came together, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. So we now, as the reader, we know that this is a divine birth going on. Joseph doesn't know that. So because Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man, and he did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. Our Pew Bibles and most translations start with a because Joseph was a righteous man, so that his righteousness is what informs him to divorce her quietly. I would argue that that's a misuse of the term righteousness, and not me. There's plenty of scholars behind that. In fact, I think what Matthew's trying to draw out here is, though Joseph was a righteous man, he decided to divorce her quietly. Because that word righteousness denotes law-abidingness or adherence to the Jewish law. And so, according to that law, the right thing to do, the just thing, the right thing for Joseph to do is to get rid of Mary. And he can push her to the full extent of the law and drag her out into a public court and shame her, for life. That's fully within his rights. But though he's a righteous man, he decides not to do that. So in the character of Joseph, you see both justice and compassion, both justice and mercy. So though he's a righteous man, he has compassion and he doesn't want to expose her to public disgrace. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. So now Joseph, he's going to get let in on what we as the reader all know. The angel appeared and said, Joseph, son of David, highlighting Jesus' Davidic ancestry. Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus. So a few things going on here. First, God comes to Joseph and says, hey, I got your back. It's okay. You're not going to offend me if you marry her. She hasn't committed adultery. No, in fact, what is in her, this is my doing. Right? This is my Genesis that's coming about. Right? So God says, hey, Joseph, I'm on your side here. Don't be afraid to take Mary. She then will bear a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus. Does anyone know what the name Jesus means? I'll give you a hint. Just keep reading the rest of the verse. It tells you right here. Right. So Jesus is a Greek name. Is a translation of the Hebrew name Joshua. Okay, so Jesus is a Greek translation of the Hebrew name Joshua, or Yeshua. So Jesus and Joshua are the same name. And what Yeshua means, or Joshua means in Hebrew, is Yahweh saves. Yahweh saves. Joshua, Yahweh, Yeshua, Yahweh saves. And so what you have then written into the very name of Jesus is, I will save you from your sins. Right? Jesus, inherent in the name is salvation. Yahweh saves. God saves. So he is to be given the name Jesus, or Yeshua, because he will save his people from their sins. Now consider that for a minute. Right? Now imagine you're living in Matthew's world. Right? You're living in Jesus' world. You've got, remember what we talked about last week? You're in exile. Right? You've had 3 oppressors on top of you, and you're waiting for God to make good on his promise to put a descendant of David on the throne. So you've got all this, and you're waiting for another David, right? This epic warrior who will come, throw off your oppressors, and once again bring Israel under the rule of Yahweh. On top of that, now Jesus is given the name Jesus, or Joshua. If you've ever read the book of Joshua in the Old Testament, it's a conquest. Right? Joshua is this general, right, who's bringing Israel into the land that God promised to Abraham. Right? And so it's just battle after battle after battle, taking down enemy fortresses. And so if you've heard son of David, and now he's got Joshua's name, you're expecting, right, this mighty warrior to come in and throw off your oppressors through this violent, epic battle. That's what everyone's waiting for. Keep reading Matthew, that's not quite how Jesus delivers the punch. So you have, she will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. And with that comes all of the baggage of that name that everybody's waiting. And then moving on to 22. Here in 22 we get into the sort of, Matthew is going to quote an Old Testament text. It says, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The prophet is Isaiah, FYI. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. So he's quoting Isaiah. And he's quoting Isaiah 7. And so now, in our minds, or at least in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, was Isaiah, how did this text function in the book of Isaiah, right? Is Isaiah this prophet who's projecting a few hundred years into the future about God will become human in a virgin birth? Is that what's going on, or what? So to answer that, I'll head back to Isaiah. You can join me if you want, or just listen. It's Isaiah 7:13. Let me give you some background. So in Isaiah 7, you've got King Ahaz. And so This would be, I'm going to say, about 500 to 700 years. I don't remember the dates exactly. Before 0 BC, before Jesus is born. So it's about a half a millennium before Jesus is born. You've got Isaiah and King Ahaz. King Ahaz is the king of Judah. Okay? Judah is the southern portion of Israel. Judah is like the Confederate States. Okay? And Israel is the Union. Right? Israel, shortly after David and Solomon went through a civil war, and they split into the northern and the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom is Judah. The northern kingdom retained the name Israel. I'm getting somewhere with this, so just hang in there with me, okay? Ahaz is the king of Judah. Now, he is shaking in his little desert sandals because the king of Israel, the northern kingdom, has teamed up with the king of Aram, and they are going to wage war against Judah, and he is scared because his army can't match that of two armies against him. So he knows, I'm about to lose my kingdom. Right? I'm in for a world of hurt here. God comes to Ahaz and he says, hey, don't sweat it. I got your back. These kings are not going to conquer you. I'll take them out. And then God is so adamant about this, he says, all right, Ahaz, ask me for a sign. I'll give you whatever sign you want. Ask me for a sign to prove that you don't have to worry. And then Ahaz, in sort of this false piety, says, oh no, I will not put the Lord to the test. I'm not going to ask you for a sign. Isaiah, the mouthpiece of God, responds, hear now, you, house of David, referring to Ahaz, is it not enough that you try the patience of men? Will you also try the patience of my God? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. This should sound very familiar. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and you will call him Emmanuel. He will eat curds and honey when he knows enough to reject wrong from right. But before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. So what's going on in this story? God has come and says, all right, Ahaz, you don't want to ask me for a sign? I'll give you a sign. The virgin. Virgin here can refer to a young woman who has never slept with a man. It can also just refer to a young woman who is of marriageable age. Okay? And it's specifically the virgin, or that virgin, that young maiden. So there's this young woman that both Ahaz and Isaiah have in common. They both know who they're talking about. Right? Maybe it's someone in King Ahaz's harem. Maybe it's another wife he's engaged to. We don't know. The point is, they knew. Right? So that young woman right there that we both know about, she's going to have a son. And she will name him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Okay? That's where the top line comes from. I pulled that out of Isaiah 7. So Emmanuel. That young woman will have a son, and God with us. And before that boy knows enough to choose right from wrong, I'll deliver these two kings from you. Or deliver you from these two kings. And then that comes to pass. Right? So God eradicates these two kings. They're no longer a problem. Ahaz isn't wiped out. And so in the time of Isaiah, that short-term prophecy is fulfilled. Right? The woman, that young virgin, or that young maiden, she had a son, and God delivered Ahaz from these two opposing forces. So what is Matthew doing quoting this about Jesus? Because clearly it happened in the past. Right? How does this function here? Well, I would contest, as would many, it's found in that phrase, fulfilled. Right? So what was true in Isaiah's time, right, over here, a few hundred years back, has become now more true in the person of Jesus. Right? Where God was with Ahaz. Right? He delivered him from these two kings, but eventually Ahaz dies, and it's sort of a temporary thing. What was true then is now more true in Jesus. Right? What was a black and white photo in Ahaz's time, now in the person of Jesus is like a color video. Right? What was a circle then is now a sphere. What was a square is now a cube in Jesus, right? Jesus is the true and better Emmanuel. He is the true and better David. He is the true and better Joshua, right? The one who will come and fully be God with us. Right, now think about that, right? In Jesus, we have God becoming human. Right? So God, right, if you imagine God sort of like up there on his throne, right? He's got the world laid out before him. He can use it as a footstool if he wants to. Right? And yet to save us, right, this group of rebellious humans that he has created, right? He gets down off of his throne, right? And he just comes down here and he sits in the pews with the rest of us, right? God himself gets down off and then becomes a human, right? And we often think, as Westerners, that, well, yeah, we know God was human, right? So, okay, he ate food and he had blood, okay, but he was fully God too, right? And we tend to emphasize the divinity of Christ to the detriment of his humanity, right? But we do ourselves a serious injustice when we do that. We often think, he knew everything, right? He's God, so he knows, he can tell the future, he knows what happened in his past, he's born with just this inherent knowledge. And I don't think that's the case. Right? As I read through the Gospels, I see this young Jew he's got to struggle. He's got to search the Scriptures like the rest of us to find out, where's my place in this world? Where's my calling? Right? He's got to figure out, he's got to take time from doing ministry and go up on the mountain away from everybody. He's got to pray and figure out and recharge and rejuvenate. And as he does this, I think, does he know he's God? Yes. Does he know he's the Messiah? Yes, but I don't think it's in this sort of scientific way that we imagine. Right? I don't know how. It's like he inherently knows, I am being called by God to do things that only God has the right to do. And so I say all this to emphasize, he was a human. Right? He was a real flesh and blood human, fully God, absolutely, but fully human. Right? This God of the universe stoops to our level and becomes one of us. Right? He invades our world. He is truly God with us. Now I'll finish up the narrative. So when Joseph awoke, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him. He took Mary home as his wife. But he had no union with her until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus, which is, by naming him, he officially adopted him. But the point that Matthew's driving at here is Emmanuel, God with us. God himself becomes one of us. He invades our world and enters in to our pain, to our joy, all of it. And so I would contend that ought to impact the way that you do everything. Like that should have a significant impact on like every part of your day. And so I'll just give you a few examples I thought of. It ought to impact you as an individual, or perhaps as an individual family unit. At work, I've noticed as I've worked various jobs, every workplace seems to have a few stereotypes. And so when I thought you got like your talkative Timmies, right? These guys that just jab on, right? You give them one opening and they're just going to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And then so much that you just get annoyed by them, right? And everybody's just like always talking again. And so you quietly trying to find a way out of the room. I would argue, as God invaded our world, he invaded his. And just take, or her, there's talkative Tally is, or whatever feminine name you want to put in there. Right? Just take 5 minutes. Be the one person who will show them kindness and decency and just say, hey, what's going on in you? Initiate a conversation with them. And then just listen. You don't have to spend 3 hours and not get any work done, but just be one person who will be Emmanuel to them, who will get in their world and talk with them. Or maybe you've got your awkward adults, right? These people who are, they didn't pick up on social cues, they're just awkward. You talk to them and you're just like, man, I just feel, why would you do that? Right? It's just awkward, it's weird. I would contend that as Christ entered our world, enter their world. Be Emmanuel to them. Be the one person who will just, despite the awkwardness, go over and talk to them. Just be that one person. Or same, you got your grumpy Gregs, right? These people, they don't smile, they've got a permanent scowl on their face, they never talk, and they bore holes into your soul every time you look at them. Just go over and somehow, if you can, get on their good side and just talk. Say, hey Greg, what's going on in your life? Or male or female. I'm using guys because I am, so that's what it makes sense. If not at work, maybe in your neighborhood. Right? Maybe you've got a single mom or a single dad in your neighborhood, or maybe they're married, but one of the spouses, their employment causes them to travel. Right? So that they're gone Monday through Friday. Be Emmanuel to them. Right? Maybe make them dinner. Just once. Right? Just one night a week, make them dinner. Right? And as you go out and be Emmanuel, do it according to your own created nature. Right? God has designed you unique. So what I mean by that is, if you're a single parent who enjoys cooking, then make them a home cooked meal. If you're a bachelor, just grab a 20 and buy them a couple pizzas. Right? You don't have to get crazy about this or try and go way above and beyond what you're able. Right? Just do what you can do according to the way that God has made you. So if it was me, I'm buying the pizzas. I'm not going to do same thing, if you've got someone in your neighborhood, maybe they're recently unemployed. Call up veteran and say, hey, I'd like to pay the bill for this address for this month. Imagine how that would feel when they get that check in the mail, or the bill in the mail that says amount due 0.00. Right? If you got the means, right? If you're in debt up your eyeballs and you don't have any spare cash, well, I'm not asking you to do that. Maybe not on the material side of things, but in your neighborhood, if you've got some kids who their parents don't give them enough attention because they won't or they can't, give them some attention. Right? If you're out in your backyard with your kids throwing a football, you don't have to go over to these two kids who are wandering around aimless and be like, hello, would you like to come play football with us? No. Just throw the football at them. They'll figure it out, right? Just invite them over to play with your family. Or throw a frisbee and knock them on the head. Or if they're not little at that point, maybe you've got some neighborhood group, right? He's one kid, he's got tattoos and he's 14, right? And he's, he wouldn't be driving a car. I don't know, a lot of ways, the punk that we all sort of look at and scowl. Right? Just be the one person to be nice to them. Right? Just go over and say hi, or buy them a Metallica CD, or whatever it is, I don't know. Right? Or if you're not comfortable with that, go with some cleaner hard rock band or something. I mean, just get it. Be Emmanuel to those around you. Right? Get into that role. Be the one. We as the church, we ought to be the one group of people who goes out and accepts people as they are and reaches out with the love of Christ. Not because we have to, but because Christ has reached out to us. Last thing too, it is good and it is good and well to buy someone a pizza or to go out and grab a CD and get to know them, right? Form those relationships. But don't, if that's all we ever do, if all we ever do is we go out and we go and we build hospitals and we put up schools as the church and we feed the hungry and we never tell them why we do it or proclaim the gospel of Jesus, that's not enough. so when you get the opportunity, as you go out to tell people about Jesus, do it. And I'm not asking you to walk around with like Romans Road in your back pocket and be like, hey, I saw you pouring that water. Do you need the water of life? Whoa. Okay, I'm not asking you to go door to door because I don't want you in my business. Leave me alone, right? But if you get the opportunity, if Awkward Al asks you, hey, why are you nice to me? Well, because God was nice to me. Simple stuff. And if you're really uncomfortable with that, or if you are, invite them to church, and I will do that. Right? Or if you got someone and you want on a lunch break and they've asked you about Jesus and you're not sure how to tell them, call me. I will meet you at your work on your lunch break, and I will tell them. Right? Or get a friend who is comfortable and have them do it. Right? But we've got to both meet the needs of those around us, emotional, physical, and also spiritual. Right? We have the gift of life, and we've got to give that. And so, last thing, if you do this, and you are Emmanuel to those who are not part of our community, it is going to tax you. It will tax you emotionally, because talking to awkward people is awkward, and it drains you, right? Or listening to talkative Timmy it just drains you, right? I have some very good friends who none of you all, but who are, you talk to them, it's like, or you see their face pop up on your phone, and you're like, oh no. All right, I can do this. Right? So as we go and be Emmanuel to those outside, let us also be Emmanuel to those inside, right? To each of us, right? And so as you go and as you minister to those not part of our church, and it drains you, then come in here and let's gripe with one another, okay? Share your exhaustion. Just tell people. And as you do, you'll realize, you'll sort of feel energized and you'll be, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this thing. There are other people who are out and being Emmanuel, and they're just as tired as I am. Right? And so then we get to minister to one another. And as you do this, right, Matthew starts and ends his gospel with Emmanuel. He starts with saying, God became one of us. And so if you will do this, if you will just be Emmanuel to those in your work, those in your neighborhood, your family members, whatever. If you talk with talkative Timmy, or stand next to Awkward Al, whatever. If you do that, then Christ says, therefore go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded. And then here's this last part. And surely I am with you, always to the end of the age. So if you will go, if you will be Emmanuel to those outside, if you will be Emmanuel to those inside, then Christ has assured us, I'm with you. Right, you're not alone in this thing. Christ is with you, and if you got Jesus with you, big things happen. All right, seas get split, storms get calmed, men and women come to faith. Go and be Emmanuel, and Emmanuel will be with you. So would you pray? Father God, thank you. Thank you so much that you are Emmanuel, right? That you entered into your own creation and trusted yourself to a couple teenagers, and then you saved us. You brought us in, and not only that, you will save all of your creation. You will redeem this place, and once again, you will fully and literally be Emmanuel, and we will get to walk with you in the cool of the day. You will be our God, and we will be your people. We love you.